Hey everyone. Hi George. Hope you're doing great. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm gonna start with the polite introduction. Who am I? So I'm Alex. I'm head of product design at Revolut, and I've joined actually 6 years ago as a junior. So I had the opportunity to grow as fast as the company grew. And now, among few things, I'm focusing on the onboarding and the activation part of the team. So basically, with the team, we are shaping a million of users are discovering and starting using Revolut. So today I wanted to talk about something a bit different than AI. I wanted to reflect a bit on this hyperscaling that we've experienced and share you from the design perspective how we do it. But before that, let's talk about crabs. So crabs are beautiful creatures. They exist almost everywhere in the planet, like in varieties of shape, varieties of forms. And there is an interesting phenomenon behind it called carcinization. Does anyone know what carcinization is before I go into the detail? That's expected. So carcinization is basically an evolution, a phenomenon in evolution, which make all this creature looking like crabs. Like all the things that we see that are crabs are actually not all true crabs. Those are like different species that evolve using the same kind of convergent mechanic, having claws, moving side to side, having this very particular shape into crabs. So we do consider them as crabs. And there is an interesting question behind it. Why things go to crab shape? Because there are multiple benefits behind that. Like it offers a great defense, like it's something which provides stability on the sea ground, something which is also extremely energy efficient when it comes to displacement. Like the crab shape is actually one of the base shapes that this kind of creature found. And this is some sort of convergence within evolution. Like this kind of unique solution that are used across creature is not only with the crab shape. Like with the crab, it's quite obvious, it's very visible, like we almost believe they are all the same. But we can also think it more widely, like wings. They do exist in many, many different species. Birds have wings, insects have wheels, some other animals have wheels. And it's because it allows interesting feature, like you can access more resources, you can travel longer distances, you can escape predator fast. And the list goes on, like eyes, almost all the creature got eyes. It offers like great ability to read the environment. You can do fine manipulation when you got eyes, like you know what you're doing. And yeah, it helps with navigation. But why am I talking about this very different example when it comes to hyperscalability? All of that is evolution convergence. And I think as designer, we can reflect a bit on it because the design basically follow the same laws. Like in nature, this process is agnostic of intention. Like it takes millions of years to see this convergence. In our world on which we craft solution, the process is extremely faster. And we can take examples which are a bit more, I don't know, common and easier to grasp. Like the first one is phones. Phone used to be in all the shapes, all the form. Like in the 2000s, like phones were designed to do one thing, and then we saw so many of them. Like phones to take picture, phone to listen to music, all keyboards, like from the top, from the sides, alpha, numeric, like everything, everything. Now phones are looking more and more the same. Like this is basically a glass brick, which have like gigantic camera on the back, and it does everything. In our space, we can also take a look at something a bit more granular, like the operating system. The operating system basically uses the same set of components and pieces. It's repeated, like we don't reinvent components. We use like buttons, we use sliders, we use drop down, we use input field. And all of that is used in any sort of devices. We go like from mobile phone to tablet to desktop. Like this is also a phenomenon of convergence. But convergence, we could say, yeah, but it's a bit boring, like we are doing the same thing, like everything is looking the same. I will say this is a process which is not really just an imitation. It's something which is the natural direction because we just want to provide what is the best solution to our product. So evolution is driven by the efficiency. Like we want to provide what is the best. We know what is the best. We're going to replicate it, scaling the best solution. So all of that is just the premise of like the convergence and how we can use it for hyperscaling. But before jumping into the solution, I would like to maybe share a bit more about the challenge that we face at Revolut. So Revolut, it's one product. We've got basically 3 designers that are working purely on the onboarding parts. This is what I'm going to focus on today. We've got 50 plus markets in the making. We're trying to introduce 4 of them per quarter, so we move quite fast. And the goal is to provide one single experience. On top of that, we've got some constraints. The first one is that we need to be aware of the culture of every market in which we operate. There is ways of doing, there is expectation from the user. We cannot ignore that when building a product. On the company side, this one is more internal, we try to be as efficient as possible. There is no need for us to like recreate the wheel again and again and again. Even though we have many markets, we don't want to have this many variation. So the idea is that we want to keep a very lean operation, being consistent, being reliable, and being easy to audit. And lastly, an important one is regulation. Regulation is something which is here to protect our users, and they vary quite a lot. Each region have their own, and we try to comply and make sure that we offer the best experience while doing so. And on top of that, I've mentioned that we're trying to do 4 markets per quarter, so move quite fast. This is how we ship things at Revolut. So usually a design sprint is 5 days. We've got from D0 to day 5. D0 is the kickoff. We try to understand what's the problem. We try to have the best definition of it as possible. So when you go to design, which is basically the next 4 days, we can ship as fast as we can. When it comes to design, we basically allow the designer to pick any tool which is relevant. User research, data insights, competitor analysis, jumping to the pixel directly, wireframing, all of that is really up to you. It depends on the problem. Each problem needs to have their own tailored solution. After that, we go into the make or break. So make or break is basically an exercise on which we present to a wider audience the solution that we worked on. We challenge it, and if we manage to challenge it for long enough for it not to break, it's a make. Let's continue. Basically, the solution survived the critic. If the solution breaks, the iteration starts again, and we add 5 more days to the sprint. At the end, on day 5, we've got this product review, which is basically the big presentation. We show the work done during the week, we validate, we implement, we continue, and we repeat. So this is the context. We've talked about the crabs, the convergence of evolution. I shared a bit about the challenge that we're facing, but I would also like to share the solution that we're using. So we basically diverge, adapt for the needs that we need to cover, and then converge. So our system behaves a bit like a living organism. We are following the same principle as I've just shared. Sorry for that. This is the method. So we've got module, baseline. It's a bit complicated, but let me dive into it a bit. So the baseline flow is basically what we consider to be the best experience that we could offer if no limitation were existing. Every single step is a module. A module is a job to be done in a form of like UI blocks and different set of features. Let's populate that a bit. So we are trying to get new user into the onboarding funnel. First of all, we're going to collect their name. Then after that, we're going to take a look into the address. Then we collect their document. Then we proceed to the card order and the checkout. This is the baseline. Each of these blocks is a different job to be done. And then we need to make sure that we cover all the markets, market A, market B, and so on and so on. But market A, for some reason, require a different way to collect the address. So what we do, we basically create a variation just specifically of the address module. The rest of the flow will be the exact same one as the baseline, just the address very slightly. So this is the diversion part. Let's say that market B also have like some constraint that we need to cover. It will be on the card order. We create a new version. When we do that, there is also something interesting that it offers us the ability to challenge the given module and to introduce something better. So let's say that the card order actually from the market B is performing better than the baseline. So you've got something which is definitely worth integrating into the main solution. So when we do that, and when we bring it back to the baseline, this new solution impacts all the markets. So each variation is an opportunity to define something better and to impact all the markets at the same time. So basically, the modularization works from features on which we can redo like the entire payment experience, the entire lending experience, to a footer when it comes to like tackling the very small details. So let's take a look at that from a closer perspective. This is the kind of screen that we all have in our product, something which have very little variation, but we need to change it. Like Italy, don't use these specific ways of doing. France, don't use these specific ways of doing. The modularization makes sure that basically every single time that we've got an address to collect, we are using the correct approach. The same module is being reused. We just tweak the number of the fields, the way that we present them, and everything stays aligned. The next one could be an example of how do we converge after we've did the integration. So this is something that we have to collect in Revolut quite often. It's a proof of address. So basically, when you create a bank account, we need to make sure that the address that you're declaring is the correct one. Currently, the way that most of the time it's been done is through a document. You need to share a PDF which contains your name and your address. It's not something which works greatly. Like the user in general, they don't really have their electricity bill or something that contains the address at end. So we know these kind of steps tend to not convert so greatly. We had the opportunity to take a deeper look when we were launching a new market, Ireland. When we did so, we wanted to challenge it as much as we could and even remove the ability to use document and provide something else. And actually, user can use their phone directly to verify their address. If we are just able to ping their location, and if it matched the address already declared, we've got a proof of address. So this improvement that was made first directly from a market made it back to the baseline. Now, every market that can support it basically received this modification, allowing a way smoother onboarding for our users. So it's an opportunity for us to reflect as designers that the convergence is always something nice. Like we should not be afraid of seeing the same solution being used and used. But maybe a small parenthesis. The convergence is not only uniformity. Like I've mentioned quickly the example of the phones. Like phones are looking more and more the same, but they also start to diverge again. Like we see foldable, again, folding in all the direction. You've got one, two-fold, three-fold, like it's coming again to a new set of exploration. So convergence, I think, is more something that we can use as a level to evolve our product again. And I've been quite fast, so that's it on my side.
Thank you, Alexandre. I really like these illustrations. Super cute.
Thank you.
Did you use AI for that?
Of course, everything was generated picture-wise.
Of course, of course. So the most voted question online is, when you shared the organized to deliver slide, where and how are decisions taken and by whom? When and is how the business is involved in their decisions?
So the business side is evolved before we go into the product stage. So what I've showed as the kickoff phase is basically when we have the product requirement already placed together. So it's basically a designer and the product owner, product manager that discuss, okay, we need to launch X market, we need to launch this feature and so on. So at this stage, we try to define as clearly as possible what needs to be done, what's the definition of success, what do we need to solve. So the business involvement is before the design task starts.
Thank you. Do we have any questions in the audience? Yeah, do we have? Yeah, I see. Oh, yeah. Please, here.
Hello, great speech, thank you. And one question, when you are designing for different markets, is it one team that is designing for all those different markets, or you are using, let's say, designers from different markets to design experiences that vary on those markets?
So most of the time, it's the same designer. Like we're gonna have one designer for onboarding, one for payments, one for credits. So this is owned by the same designer. The idea is that we preserve the context. And then when it comes to like the localization of the product, it's easier for them to actually create the variation, like the small modification that will make it perfect for the given market.
Thank you. And one more question to follow up. And how do you measure and find out whether those modifications are working for those markets?
So each module is basically solving a problem, collecting an information or verifying something. So each of these modules have their own definition of success. So it's quite metric oriented. If we see better metric on one module, then we bring it back to the baseline. If the same uplift is visible, then we propagate to all the markets.
Thank you.
Thank you. Another question from our remote audience. Was there any market where you discarded your global standard approach because it didn't work? Was it any?
We have to sometimes take a lot of variation, making it quite away from the baseline. So there are some markets not launched yet that required quite heavy modification to the point on which, yeah, it's not following the baseline anymore. But the idea is that still we can reuse the pieces, we use the same logic or the order behind.
Do you remember which market was it, just out of curiosity?
It's a market which is work in progress.
Okay.
We'll share soon.
Okay, thank you. Any other last question? Okay, I see here in the first row. The mic, yeah, please. Here. Yeah, it's in the very first row. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Alexander. Great talk.
Thank you.
You talked about the make or break day, the fourth day of each week or of the design week. How high is your make rate? And what do you do to keep it high or to raise it even further?
So the goal of the make or break is to act as a filter, making sure that we keep the quality bar quite high, but also provide feedback. So we do have, I will say, like 70% of the time it's a make, 30% of the time it's like a break and we have to iterate. We do have also make with comments, which are basically according to what we've discussed during the call and according that this modification will be taken, let's bring it to the next stage. So it's like a filter on which we can make sure that the entire team is able to groom, see the solution, ask questions, or bring challenges. And yeah, like 70 to 30, I would say.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks, Leon.
Alexandre.